Scene one, Apple, take one.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shane Borza. Welcome to another episode of Film Notes, the show where I interview people in the industry about what they do in the industry and get their notes. I'm excited to have a new person here that I've just recently met, and we're going to talk about all the things that she does and get her notes on the various roles that she has. So she is Soukaina Alaoui El Hassani, who is originally from Morocco, but now is in New York City. And she does a lot of things, filmmaker, but also a producer. She's worked with a bunch of production companies and studios, but also has done indie stuff. I know you've worked on like Me Too campaigns. So I would love to dive into all that with you. And welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Shane. I'm excited.
Well, there's a lot of things that I want to talk about, but the first is, how did you get started in the industry in general, regardless of what role that is? Was that something you started like in Morocco and then you came over to the US like with that? Or did you move here and then get into like doing film work afterwards?
I mean, I like to say that I was making films when I was still back home in Morocco. Like when I was in high school, like we would ask to do like creative presentations of stuff, and I would like basically make films using like photo booth in my phone, and it was like really funny that way. But if the question is more about like getting into the industry and how it was definitely like when I moved here for college, and then I started making films on the side, and I just got my hands on a camera and just started shooting, and then uh got into like the film community and started like, like UPA here and there. And then a friend of mine needed an AD, and I was basically like a little bit of a script doctor. And then he asked me to be on as an AD for him. And then after we wrapped out the film, he literally looked at me and he was like, "You have a knack for this. Like you should continue to do this. Like you have like producer chops and stuff like that." And I was like, this is really great. And his name is Taha Aziz. He's an amazing filmmaker. Highly recommend his newest film, Donkey Skin, which is amazing. Uh, um, I'm very excited. I'm always very excited to work with him, and he's really great. And yeah, it was then that like I started kind of like producing films for people, and then like I joined this like collective, this film collective, and then we started making all these different films, and I started helping them planning all this stuff. And then I started making my films a little bit by like producing other people's stuff. And then I started getting creative and with like making these like creative videos and these like smaller docs and stuff. And then I interned for CNN after I graduated from or while I was still in college, kind of like interned for CNN, and then went back home for a few years. And then I came back and I did grad school at NYU, and I was producing films while I was doing grad school there. And then I was studying like film and documentary there as well. And specifically like documentary. And like it was like really cool because we got to make like documentaries, we got to learn a bunch of stuff, but I was making stuff on the side, and it was really, really great. And then after I graduated from grad school, I then became a production coordinator for Vice, and we were doing a lot of like branded content and like spots and all that stuff. And I was doing really well. It was not the same as filmmaking, but quite similar in the sense that the logistics sides of things, it's about just getting shit done. And that kind of translated so easily into my production coordinator job. And then eventually I left Vice to come to Versus, where I'm currently a producer. And it's still making films on the side, still writing scripts, still like currently about to release my documentary, Children of Sin, which I'm super excited about. Just like last year, released two films, To Fade Away, two shorts, To Fade Away, which did really, really well. It like won the audience award at Cleveland International Film Festival, at the Cleveland Film Festival. And then Berserk, that literally just recently like, I mean, it's been winning, but like recently just won at the Oregon Shorts Film Festival as well. So like, just having fun, making cool films, making films that speak to me, and then in the same time, in the same vein, doing like commercial production and originals productions and that kind of stuff, which has been like really fun.
I can't believe you mentioned that you're doing producing while you're in grad school at the same time. Like I've produced and I've gone to grad school, but I did those at totally different times in my life. I cannot imagine. So kudos to you. That's great.
Yeah, I a lot of my friends say that I don't have an off switch, which I think is really funny. But I don't know, when you're passionate about stuff, we'll sleep when we die. I mean, I don't preach that to anyone, but like I am a very passionate person, and so like when I really want something done, I do get like hyper fixated into like really just like trying to get it done and pushing things, not to the detriment of anyone else but myself. So I especially when you're like a team leader, like you do have to take care of your team, but like, first one in, last one out mentality. I know, a little bit traditionalist, and quite a bit archaic, but I do believe that a good leader needs to work as hard, if not harder, than the team that they are currently leading. So
Yeah, well, I echo a lot of what you just said there, because there is a lot of truisms around some of these things, even if some of them might be a little more old fashioned, like, leading by example or
yeah.
doing the work or what have you. But especially when it's production, I mean, it's so different than normal life. Like 12 hours is standard, 6 days a week is standard. Like most normal jobs don't operate like that. So I think sometimes when people come into production, they're like, whoa. But as you know, it's like when you're on, or you're shooting or doing whatever, like you just have to get it while you're there. You can't just like
Well,
come back.
yeah, and to that point, I do think that like production is super glamorized. Like there's like this like everybody thinks that it's a super glamorous thing, that you're constantly in the like limelight and everything is just easy breezy and sexy and whatever. And you're like, no, dude, like days, like when you're on a live production, when you are shooting a film, like you barely have time to shower, let alone sleep. So it's like all these like different things that you're like, oh damn, like you really have to be on top of stuff, and you have to make sure that things are running smoothly, and you have to check in on your departments, and you have to trust your departments, and then when there's fires, and there's always fires, everybody, like, you have to just expect that there's going to be chaos. It's like having that instinct of knowing how to identify the like biggest fire and then starting there instead of dealing with all the fires at the same time, which is like a very Will Packer mentality. But like that is the secret sauce. It's like, okay, which fire is burning brightest? And I need to focus my attention on that, put that out, and then keep going until all the fires are out. I feel like that is kind of like your role as a producer. It's like, okay, what needs to be prioritized in this moment? Because splitting your focus just doesn't make any sense. And like when people see that, when people see that you're calming things down, and yes, there's a lot of chaos, but you're kind of like absorbing that anxiety a little bit, and you're kind of like absorbing that like chaoticness a bit, and you're just feeling like, okay, well, in terms of order of priority, this is the thing that trickles down all the way down to all this stuff. So we deal with this, and then this is coincidentally going to deal with this fire, because this fire is a byproduct of this fire, and so that's going to be great. So it's a twofer. It's great, and then we're going to move forward to this one, and it's just this like process of just, a lot of it is instinct, a lot of it is like understanding, and a lot of it is just like knowing when to step back and just, and like, I know that everybody thinks that when like an issue arises or when things happen, like things need to just happen super fast, and that's true, but like effectively. So you do have to slow down in the beginning just a smidge to be able to assess the full picture, put that plan together, and it's the execution of the plan that needs to go super fucking fast. That's what people keep missing. That is the disconnect, because being reactionary to issues, it is only going to cause you more issues, especially as a producer. So you kind of have to be like, all right, we'll deal with it. Well, so here's what I'm thinking. What are you thinking? So even that like collaborative, calming down people with that collaborative spirit and being like, we'll deal with it. We've done this before. We'll do it again.
Yeah, I really want to echo that because it reminded me. So this is season 5 of the show. So if you're just tuning in, like go back and listen to some of the last couple of years because there's been a lot of great conversations with different people in different roles, and like you mentioned at the beginning, different aspects of production. Because it doesn't matter if you're doing theater or journalism or short films or features or docs or scripted, like it's all production.
Mm-hmm.
And the producer I talked to a couple years ago said, you have to remember you're running around fighting the fire. You're not running around on fire.
Yeah.
And
I
like
think,
you mentioned, like if you're running around like your hair's on fire, like you might be going in the wrong direction. You know, you're accidentally focusing on like the small thing when really the big thing's falling apart. So it is that slowing down and that checking in with departments and making decisions. So where would you say you learned some of that? Because you mentioned a couple of things like going to grad school, you're at CNN, like was this a building of things over time? Like I got this here and I got this here and over time, then I had like my producer's hat, or
I'm gonna
how
be
would you
honest with
all
you.
that?
The way that I see it, the way that I reflect on it quite frequently, actually, is that I don't think I've ever not been in a chaotic environment, either from like a personal standpoint or from like a professional standpoint. There's always been chaos around me, and it is this thing where like people who are used to chaos have an averse reaction to like tranquility. When things are moving too smoothly, that is when my wheels turn, to be candid with you. That is when I'm like, what am I not seeing that's not on fire? And that is where I start to panic. Well, no, panic is like too big of a word. It's too dramatic. But like, that's where I start to become a little bit dubious of the situation where I'm like, I need to investigate, but like stealthily. And I've learned to regulate that over the years. But like, growing up in Morocco with like, you have like a dual identity basically. My parents don't really speak English and I do. And so it's like, okay, so you have your identity at school and then you have identity back at home. So there's that duality already. And I was the kid that overachieved constantly. So I was, captain of teams and like did all the most of the extracurriculars, like excelled at my classes where when I could, like that kind of stuff. And then so I always had things going on. And then when I came to the States, everything was just chiller. And I was like, I don't think I like this. So I did the same thing. So I quite enjoy being busy. I quite enjoy that chaos. And so I'm used to it. Now, post that chaos, I've had to learn how to regulate myself a lot. And because there's residual, you're absorbing so much in those moments that when things are all over and done with, you are depleted. You have like emotional fatigue. Like it's insane because you're like, ooh, like I can't believe we pulled that off. But then I agree with the producer who said that you can't run around on fire when there's a fire because because that's just shifting the attention to you and that's not what is needed in the moment. What is needed in the moment is level-headedness and assessment. Being reactionary hasn't helped anyone. Being reactionary and making assumptions hasn't helped anyone. Always asking the questions and leading with curiosity always gets you to where you need to go at the end of the day. Actually faster than when you thought you would get to something. It's like insane. Operating with honesty and integrity and curiosity are like my top 3 tenets. That is how I function in every aspect of my life and it bleeds in every aspect of my life. I'm not a perfect human being, but like I'm always going to come to you with, hey, I want to inquire about something really quickly just because I don't have all the information. And that separation between facts and feelings is also equally as important. The facts are these: I'm feeling anxious. Now, is that helpful? No. So let me just calm my anxiety down and just focus on the facts for now. And then when I start focusing on the facts, my anxiety just kind of like disappears. And you're like, oh, I just had to focus on the facts and figure out what the next steps were. So by doing that time and time again, you get into a routine where that's not even, it's like that sense of discernment becomes so like secondhand to you. So when shit hits the fan, you're like, okay, what do you need? How do we solve this? And like always coming from a place of curiosity, knowing, to me, the smartest person in the room is always the one that is the most curious. It is not the person that knows the most or the person with the most wisdom. It is literally the person that is the most curious. Sitting in the room and being like, actually, I have a question. Well, how is this, and that? And how does that work? Would it be possible to say that a plan like this would work? Is there a plan that could be better than this? And inviting that collaboration, I think, is always a good idea, because you don't know everything, even as a producer, even as a leader. And I think that's what makes people effective leaders of productions. And that's what sometimes, alleviates a lot of the fires, because sometimes a fire is just a spark and someone is just calling it a fire. And you're like, no, it's just smoking. There's just, it's just smoke. Like there's nothing wrong. There's nothing there. So it's like trying to keep things calm, trying to keep things like going. And I mean, I say this all the time, like with the help of my current mentors right now, like Rob Myers, who's the managing director of Versus and also an EP, Catherine Henderson, who's director of creative operations and an EP as well here, Stephen Lambiazzi, who is a senior producer here, and he's like freaking amazing at what he does. Mark Fusco, who's also a senior producer, EP, who's amazing at what he does as well. And then you have Tom Calabraro, who's a director of production, who kills it in like live, post, whatever. Just give him something and he'll spin gold out of it. And they all kind of like banded together and like insanely enough just kind of like ushered me, or not ushered me, but helped shape these parts of me even more and refine these parts of me even more. And they've given me their trust, their encouragement, their support. It's like, and I always say the joke of like, it's really funny because for most of my life, I was always looking for mentorship to be able to kind of like, like, um, um, uh, I'm a little rough around the edges. So like to kind of like, like sculpt me a little bit more. Not that I needed a lot of it or that I did, or I'm not quite sure, honestly, but like they're so helpful and they help me in that regulation and they help me be a better producer and a better leader from my film work to my commercial work, like even in our like conversations about film and stuff. So it's like all of these people have like banded together, and there's a running joke that I have, which is I'm actually hard to mentor because I've wanted mentorship for so long, but all these mentors that I've asked to be my mentors previously to all these mentors that I just mentioned that are currently mentoring me, all of them have said, I don't need one, because they all felt like I had it all figured out. And then I got here and then I got like 6 or 5 or whatever. And I was like, oh, damn. Okay. And I realized, no, it is because I'm hard to mentor, because I'm ferocious and I'm passionate and I don't hyperfixate. I don't want to like misrepresent that, but I am someone whose focus, I get very like hyper focused, and it's like, let's go. How do we push this? Let's go. How do we push this? And they were like, I love that you have your foot on the gas. Don't you dare let your foot off that gas, because that is exactly where you need to be right now. But hold on. For this specific thing, let's slow down and just take a beat. And that is what they've all in their own way taught me. They've taught me skills, like actual skills, like how to deal with clients and how to speak with people, how to like be a producer in the best way, how to protect my teams, how to protect my clients' interests, and find that like almost impossible like intersection between the both, like that balance between the both. They helped me do that. And it's amazing how they each had their like role in shaping me. And I am super, super grateful for that.
A lot of really great stuff there. And, this is the first time we're talking, so you may not know, but I'm not only in the film industry, but I'm also like a certified mental health coach, and that's kind of like my day job. And a lot of the stuff you're talking about, like learning this internal stuff that we have to do for and with ourselves in order to be like, oh, I know I have a tendency to do this, and I have to start noticing when I do that, or like learning to do more or less and like regulate, but also I have to do this external communication with other people, and I'm learning hard and soft skills, and it's really balancing. Like, we need to be able to sprint and we need to be able to walk. Like,
Exactly.
it's not just normalize. It's always this speed, because sometimes it's too fast and sometimes it's too slow. And we need those mentors and teams of people, because, you know, if you zoom out, really what we're talking about is project management.
Yeah.
It just happens to be the product or the project you're managing is production, but it's dealing with teams in and out of the production. Like you mentioned, sometimes, especially in commercial, like, well, we were hired by this company to deliver X. Doesn't matter if it's a film or something that comes in a box. Like, you need to meet the specifications of the client, and you either do or do not get that done. And so there are lots of layers in everything you just mentioned. But I wanted to ask a little bit, because you talked about like your own films. You have a couple shorts out, and you have the project Children of Sin. I don't know if that was a feature or not, but where are you finding similarities or differences between like indie production with like that commercial stuff in the things that you're talking about? Are you finding, like, I'm assuming you're like writing, directing, producing those film projects of your own, but in the commercial world, it sounds more like you're just kind of coming as producer to help like funnel the project through. Are you finding that those are helping you learn skill sets, or are you finding you're more like switching channels? Like, when I'm over here, I have this focus and direction, and when I'm over here, I have that one. Because it can be really helpful sometimes to go, all I have to do is produce this project for them. It can be like a nice break in a way.
It's definitely, so a lot of people think that there is that kind of like compartmentalization going on. And to a certain extent, yes. But like, I've been given the privilege at Versus to also be a creative voice, which is awesome. So like, I partner with like creative directors all the time and give them my 2 cents about certain things. Like, ECDs and CDs will come to me and ask me for my opinion about certain creative like executions. Well, what do you think? Hey, can you look this over really quickly? I know you have a good eye for this. So like, for one of my favorite CDs to work with, his name is Luis Aguirre. He's amazing. He's a great creative director. He's literally a jack of all trades and a master of all. Like, this man floors me. He's amazing at what he does. And he basically, like, in a way, also mentored me to basically be his like art director. So he's trained my eye to clock things, or to eagle eye certain things for me to call out, or to like make suggestions. He includes me in these creative conversations. He includes me in these things because he's literally like, you are not just a producer, you are a creative producer, because you do weigh in creatively on a lot of jobs. And that, I think, is why I'm so lucky to be at a studio like Versus, where it's like, not everything is so hyper delineated. So you do get something for the soul. So you get to kind of like, oh, can we tweak this, and can we do this, and da 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 da. And there's so much trust between us that you have like this, like, I think that's a great idea. And it's such a like supportive environment. So a lot of me thriving as a producer here also has to do with the supportive environment that we've created for each other, and how we recognize each other's potentialities. And there is this like sense of community that we're building, or that we have built, in my opinion. And it's so solid and it's so strong. And so I think, in terms of like the similarities between that world and my indie filmmaking world, like, I think, listen, logistics are logistics. You got to get from point A to point B, and you got to figure out how to do X, Y, and Z in both realms. But there is a sense of urgency that comes in commercial that I don't think indie film has. I think there's definitely a sense of urgency, but it's not as intense as commercial, because in the commercial world right now, deadlines are insane, budgets are super low. You're trying to not only make a budget, but you're trying to make a margin off of the budget that you are currently receiving. You're trying to job plan it correctly, resource for it correctly, execute it correctly to make both client and your artist, like to keep your artists happy and protect your artists, but also you make your clients happy, but also make the company that you're working for happy. And there's all these kinds of like pressures playing. So that it does get pressure cookery. But like I said, like it's one of those things where I'm like, why is like I thrive in these environments because they do have this pressure cooker element to it, and I'm used to this pressure cooker element to it. There's like a side of me that kind of like relishes in it a little bit because it's this idea of like it's like a puzzle. You have to figure out how all the pieces are going to fit together, and there's like almost like a challenge for me that I like genuinely enjoy. With indie film, it's less of a pressure cooker, at least for me, but there's so much more to do. There is less delineation in job roles. There, you become kind of like, you wear like 7 hats all at once. All of you, everyone that's working on the film, you kind of all wear like a bajillion hats, and then some of those hats overlap and all that stuff. So there's a little bit less structure in the indie game than there is in commercial. I love indie though, because you have also so much more, it's almost as if like you have so much more space to really push the creative without the guidelines, without like limiting guidelines, basically. In the commercial world, you have very limiting guidelines. Sometimes you do, sometimes clients are like, here's a budget, go forth and populate. And you're like, oh shit, this is great. But then most of the time, a client will come to you and be like, here's a limited budget. Here's this insane brief that we kind of want you to do on a limited budget. And we say, okay, sure. And it's like us keeping ourselves regulated in those high stress environments with all the, like the odds are stacked against us. And we still make it work. And that part of like us making it work is exhilarating. And it's why I love working at the studio. It's the fact that we are collaborative, and there's a little bit of like an indie film collaborative kind of like spirit to it, because we're all low-key filmmakers or super into film here. So it's like, I need your help with this. And everybody's like locking in, like, yes, okay, how can I support you? And so it's that kind of environment. So when you are working in those like great environments, those collaborative environments, those environments that really put community first, which in my opinion, like Versus kind of like does that a lot, like that, like you thrive, you start to thrive. And so these very impossible asks from commercial clients all of a sudden are like, no, it's possible. And we will fucking make it work. Like we'll make it work. It'll happen. We've been through worse. And it's literally because we're scrappy, but we execute, but we execute, and we're like huge problem solvers. We see a problem and we're like, okay, well, how do we solve this? We focus on that. We don't focus on the impossibility of something. We focus on how do we make that quote unquote impossibility possible.
That reminds me of one of my favorite like film lore stories. And if people have been following along, they've probably heard me say this like 5 times in different guests, but it's a great reminder. And to piggyback on what you just said, so Robert Rodriguez is famous for saying, I love when people bring me a problem on set because it gives me an opportunity to create my way out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, you know, if a year ago I wrote a script and then a year from now, the movie is exactly the way I imagined it, there was no growth or improvement. He's like, you need to have those problems come up on set and you go, well, we can't do what you wanted that you thought of a year ago. But then you have a better idea you never would have had unless the problem came. And you go, oh, you know what we could do? Because it forces you to collaborate with other people. You know, the DP is like, well, you know what we could do is this. I never would have thought of that. But that's why you need, like you were saying earlier, to bring together good people and say, oh, I don't need to think of every solution to every problem because I know this group of people together will.
Well, that was one of the points of like one of the things with my mentor, like Rob always tells me, he's like, just ask for help. Like, you know, you can just ask for help. And I'm like, no, but like, I can do it, but like, it's just hard. And I was like, yeah, so like, how can I help you? And I'm like, it's that easy. And that's another reason why sometimes they've never said that I was hard to mentor. I just want to be very clear about that. No one has ever said that, but I think it's my assessment of who I am. You know, like I'm a go-getter. I kind of like just take a fucking thing, and then like for some reason I take more responsibility than I should. And it's probably a bunch of stuff going on there that probably have to figure out and be a little bit dig deeper in, but like asking for help is something that I struggle with immensely. So I appreciate it when all of my mentors are like, "Hey, we're checking in on you. What's going on? Like, you got to like tell us." And so they've gotten me into the habit of going to them with my issues and asking them, "Hey, here's what I'm thinking. What do you think?" And then maybe you're like, I want to figure out the best way forward, not just my way forward, but the best way forward. And some of it had to do with the fact that I always felt like I needed to prove myself. And then all of my mentors were like, "You have nothing to prove. You work really hard, you learn really fast, and you are getting really good at what you do. If not, you're great at what you do." So like, it's one of those things where a lot of it had to do with even battling your own insecurities, like trying to figure out how to get from like being on these sets and like seeing these problems. Sometimes, yeah, you are not the only person that could have the potential solution. Sometimes the solution is, you know, who would have a great solution to this problem because I don't have all the knowledge is X. So you knowing that you need to consult with a specific person because you know they have knowledge about that specific issue, that they could provide you with the context that could help you figure it out. That in and of itself is a superpower. You don't have to know everything to figure it out.
Sorry to stop the show, but we've got some bills to pay around here, and to do that, I wanted to point out a couple things I've got on offer at shaneborza.com. As both a master level mental health coach and an award-winning filmmaker, I have the experience and expertise to help you go further faster, regardless of whether that is in your production or life. I am psyched to announce all my courses and books have been updated and expanded and are available on both Apple Books and at my shop. Especially wanted to point out my film notes book and workbook, where you can learn everything you need to make your film and get it out to the world. If you need help with either your life or film, please reach out. And now, back to the show. Very well. Yeah, very well said. And again, there's a lot that you're talking about that I've experienced on production, but also that I've experienced like with clients in coaching sessions, because like you said, a lot of this is like, you know, imposter syndrome, like, oh, I don't know how to do this. You're like, well, it sounds like you have learned how to fix a lot of these things. So maybe you haven't fixed these things, but can you start to see like, oh, I fixed stuff before. I can fix this too. I just haven't done it this way or this particular problem. Or, oh, I know that I have a hard time asking for help, but I also know that it's an option. Like I can ask for help if I need to. Because really, again, when we step back, it's like the old sales story where it's like there's someone who's bad at sales and then they hire someone who's good at sales, and indirectly they now got more sales done because what they did is they found the right person who could do the thing. Because at the end of the day, you just need a bunch of sales to happen. It doesn't mean you have to be the one that does all the sales personally. Mm-hmm. So again, when we're producing, we're like, well, I just need to know at the end the product got done. And it is shifting from like the me to the we type of thing, because film is collaborative. You know, it's not, I mean, you might write on your own, or when you're producing, you're doing the paperwork at night, maybe by yourself, but then you're going to set and you're like, oh, there's a lot of people here.
It's definitely that, but the meat of the we is great, because I do think that sometimes people in leadership positions think that it's a me that I have to protect the we. And I think that's the thing, is that like, I think when people, and it's that imposter syndrome that you were talking about, it's the, well, now that I'm a leader, I'm responsible for everyone. But it's like, hold on, you're the leader of a village. That doesn't mean that people don't get to be villagers as well. They need to also think, like there's a public responsibility for everyone involved there. So it's like, sometimes you forget that as a producer, because you're like, oh, well, I'm managing a team. And it's like, doesn't matter. You go and you ask for help. So it's like, you don't know something, then you ask the person that you think is going to know the answer. Again, it's the most curious person in the room is the smartest person in the room. That's it. Leading with curiosity, asking questions, being like, hey, so I don't know how to do this. And like one of my rules that I try to stick to is like, if I am 99% sure of something, it is still not at 100. I still have to double check to make sure that I don't screw up my team, and make sure that I double check everything with them so that they're also comfortable with the game plan. I can't just take a random ass game plan up to the top, run it to the client and all that stuff without checking in with my team. I can't just enact a game plan without checking in my team when I'm making my films. Everybody needs to be aligned. And it's almost like this like round table situation that you start creating. We all know that there is a quote unquote leader of the right table, of the round table, but at this table, we all need to be able to speak and discuss the things that are needed for us to function correctly. And then the leader will synthesize that into a plan, run it by the round table, and make sure they're okay with the plan. So it's that kind of thing of like, I do think that sometimes the higher you go, the less you feel like you can do that. But it's like, no, you should do that more. Like, you should do that more. Like, just because you're checking in on your team and your team's functionality, you are as good as your team. If your team isn't happy with you, if your team isn't functioning the way that you are, that you're expecting them to be, I can guarantee you that 9 times out of 10, it is also because of poor management. You need to be able to level with people, and candor is so important. Like, hey, dude, what's going on? Like, can I support you? Is there anything that I need to help you with? What are the needs here? Why is X looking this when this was the expectation and this is what we got? And it's like having those honest conversations without like the ad hominem attacks, without the like personal, like, the tone or the like off vibe. Sometimes it's just like, hey, dude, what's going on? What's happening? You good? Like, can I help you in any way? Like, it's literally coming from that place of empathy. And I swear, the more seen your teams feel, like the more effective they become. Like in indie film, in commercial, whatever it is. But the more you make people feel like they are safe enough to be able to express what their needs are, which is so freaking important, the more effective your team becomes. It's like a well-oiled machine at that point. And even when fires hit, you're like, you know what? We've all built such deep trust with each other that all I got to do is like, okay, so this is a problem. How do we solve it? Here's my thought. What are your thoughts? What do you think? Oh yeah, I think that's a great idea. Great, cool. What about you? Well, I think actually we should do it this way. That's interesting. Tell me more. Why? Like, what's going on? Like, and then you just kind of like go at it, and you like, then all of a sudden you come up with like the ultimate solution, and it's like, oh, this wasn't a problem at all. So it's like diffusing all potential tension.
And it speaks of a couple of things you mentioned earlier, like the curiosity. You're not just curious, does anyone else have an idea? But like you mentioned, you're curious about the person. Like, how are you? Are you okay? Do you need anything? And especially when we're talking about, I mean, if you're doing a feature, people always talk about it's like summer camp for adults. You feel like you've known each other for years, and then maybe you don't talk for 5 years, or you don't work together or whatever, because you're constantly, and this speaks to the wisdom and experience you're talking about, like the faster you can get everyone to feel like we're on the same page, we know, like, and trust each other. We've only been together for a day, but we have, 27 days to get this feature done. You have to be able to get that feeling in the room amongst all those people, like super, super fast. But then you also have to be able to pick that right back up again from scratch from another group on the next production, a month later.
It's creating that security, right? That safety of that security, choosing the right dude. Resourcing a job correctly is like half the job. Like, well and truly, like you gotta choose like the right people with the right attitudes, the people that really are willing to put in the elbow grease and like really believe in what you're trying to create, or like really want to be a part of this. Like it's that enthusiasm, it's that like excitement, it's even that safety, right? Like, can I trust this person to be someone safe? And sometimes, like, yeah, your instincts are wrong and that's fine. So you go ahead and you replace that person. That's totally fine. Not that everyone's replaceable, but like resourcing a job correctly is so important. And if you are bringing in the wrong people in an ecosystem, it's a house of cards. But you have to create that security, and creating that security needs to be done by leadership. End of discussion. If you're going to create a good, healthy space, if you're going to create a communitarian space, like a very community minded space, if you're going to create a village, it's got to be by the higher ups. It's got to be by whoever's leading the charge here. And if whoever is leading the charge isn't paying attention, isn't really seeing where things are, isn't really like on top of their things, isn't like I said in the beginning, like first one in, last one out, like people feel supported. People feel like there's someone in front of them and someone behind them leading the pack, but also leading the pack from behind as well. Like, we're protected, we're good, like we feel good. If I have a gripe, then I can vent to it and release that pressure valve. Like those kinds of spaces where like there's like all of these like different ways to diffuse that tension, but also your whole team feels supported by you because you're doing your job effectively, because you're able to overpay them sometimes, or like apologize and recognize that they're putting in more than they should. Like that kind of stuff goes a long way with people, and being like, I really appreciate this, I'm so sorry, like this is, or respecting their boundary when they set one, and not like feeling like, not taking it as like an attack or like an affront to you. Like a lot of leaders do that, where they're like, I just don't understand why they don't support. And I'm like, because they're setting a boundary, dog. Like their contract doesn't say work more hours. Their contract says work a specific amount of hours, and you can't cross that. You're asking for a favor, and you're acting as if it's like a function of the job. It's not. A favor is not a function. A favor is please, and they have the agency to say fuck no. And so I do think that a lot of people don't get that sometimes, which is why a lot of like producers get a bad rap, because producers tend to kind of be like, well, this is inconvenient for me, so I don't like this, and so I'm now gonna not be great. And I aspire to not be one of those producers. I do want my crew members to be happy. I do want my artists to be happy. It is insane, the difference, even in just the quality of work that comes out from them, just in the excitement of having them work with me and work with the people that I bring on. Like the excitement, it changes everything. Like it really well and truly does. Like the good environments, healthy environments, wow. Like it can make all the difference.
So I love all these long answers, because you bring up all these new ideas of things that like, oh, I never would have thought to ask about that. But you're also, bridging, like I mentioned before, a lot of this stuff on different levels. Some of it's like, okay, when you're on set, this is what you need to do. But when you're in the office planning, like this is what you need to do. But when you're liaisoning between, the client or the company or whatever, this is what you need to do. And it works on all those levels. But, to encapsulate some of this down a little bit, it's really that two-way communication. And again, some of that is like communicating with yourself internally and then externally with other people. Sometimes it's, from the home office to what's happening in the shoot and vice versa. But I had someone in an interview that I listened to say that really when you're on set, there's in front of the camera, there's behind the camera. And that's like the two parts. And if you want what the camera is receiving, whether it's an image or a vehicle or an animal or a person or a stunt or anything, you have to be able to figure out amongst the crew or what you need to tell them, like, we're not getting what we need. Here's what we need to adjust. But if the person in front of the camera doesn't have what they need to be able to tell you, like, I don't feel safe. Can we get some kind of coordinator here? I don't know where the mark is. Someone needs to tell me, like, what do you mean I keep going at a shot? So that goes back to, like you said, you have to create this feeling of safety and trust so that people feel like I'm allowed to speak up about the thing. And I know they're at least going to entertain what I said, because when you talk about leadership, I was always raised with the idea of like the best idea wins. However, someone has to be the person who decides what the best idea is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really hard sometimes. So we go, well, we can't sit here for 2 hours and try to hear every single idea, but we do have to allow someone to speak up and go, what if we did this? And go, and then someone has to go, yes, we're doing that. And then everyone just agrees, so-and-so said, now we're doing it. Great.
Well, that's why like I gave the round table example, right? It's like you as a leader can be the final adjudicator, right? Like you can be the person that's like, yep, yeah, that actually sounds better because it encapsulates what this team's needs are and this department's needs are and this department's needs. So that is actually a better idea. What do y'all think? And if there's a consensus, boom, there it is. That's your decision. Like that's, I mean, it's funny. Like I do that. I know that there's like a very TikTok rampant situation about everybody's talking about communication now and effective communication, and everybody's now blaming each other for being bad communicators or whatever. But, and I hear you and I see you, like, I'm not saying that, but like, I do think that a lot of people sometimes just need to be given the opportunity and the space to be able to feel okay enough to be able to communicate those things, because people are scared to let you know what their needs are. Like, it's hard. Like when you're like, oh, well, I wouldn't have done it that way. But like, if they had experiences on other sets where they got chastised for stuff like that, like, it's like, if no one tells them, hey, you are encouraged to call me out on my shit and to tell me I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Like, that should be something that should be said. Or like, I will take any and all like advice, or like, if you guys think that there's a better plan, I want to hear it. Like, leaving the door open for that curiosity, for that, like, hey, actually, I think this is better. It, like, I'm telling you, it just makes the work better in general. I was working on this massive campaign with this like huge team of animators and a creative director, Luis, who like trusted his art director, Daniel, implicitly. He trusted him implicitly. And then Daniel sometimes would like come up and be like, actually, I think this is a better idea. Do you think we should use this and this? And then one of his animators would be like, actually, if we did it this way, it would be better because it would save us time on like the renders at the end of the thing. And so it's like having these open dialogues and creating these like check-ins and these like, the whole team is meeting once a day to kind of like talk about what today is going to look like and what action items are and blah, blah, blah. Organizing your creatives, organizing your teams, making sure they feel supported, making sure they have all the resources they need to be able to execute things properly. Like, all of that is important, but it's also because they feel empowered to let me know what it is that they need. Because in other jobs, they don't really get these like spaces or provide. They're kind of like just told, we'll figure it out. I don't care. Just make it happen by the next posting. And it's like, can't do that, because that's ineffective. And you're literally setting your team up to fail, and they are trying to keep you from failing. So if your team has your back, you should have your team's back too. End of discussion. Like, that's it. So as a producer, it goes beyond just passing shit back and forth or talking with clients about when the next posting is or whatever, or managing the schedule. No, it's literally getting in the weeds with your team, getting in the trenches with your team and saying, how do I support? What do you need? 7 bayonets? Let's go. Like, that kind of shit, where it's like more like, how do we win this battle? This is all of us. This is all of us in the trenches. So if you are a leader that can't be in the trenches, I've got news for you. You're not a leader. You're a fancy schmancy like shiny thing that I guess is pretending to be a leader, but really isn't doing the job to be there for your team. At least in my book. That's my opinion. But I don't know. I'm a more involved producer, and I think that like my projects and my teams thrives when I am a more involved producer. I am not overbearing. I'm not like out here being like, oh, what are you doing and what's going on? And I'm not here trying to keep track of your time or like whatever, but I am the type of person and be like, hey, we're gonna have a regroup call at the end of the day. I don't care what you do today. We're just regrouping to see progress report. That's it. I just want to see where you're at. so that we can see and flag if there's anything during that progress that we need to flag before posting in a few days. That's it. So that I'm setting up my animator for success, so that or my designer or my art director or my creative director, so we're all on the same page, we're all like just chugging along. And if they tell me I don't think a call is necessary, I'm like, I understand everything at this point. I'm like, yeah, okay, no problem. Dude, I trust you. Do your thing. The only reason why I do that in the first place is just to make sure that I'm like, do you need an extra pair of hands? Do you need like a new software? Do you want to like set this up this way? Do you need help from your creative director in a specific way, in a creative way? Do you need anything from me as a producer? All that jazz.
Again, there's a lot of the things you're talking about that come up in the mental health coaching. Like we talk about fact checking things.
Yeah.
Like we have a story in our head. Like, is that true? Am I just telling myself that?
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of times clients come in and like, well, I have to do this. I'm like, well, who told you that? And when we get down deep, they realize like, oh, I told myself that. And I told myself enough that I feel like it's real.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of us don't notice those things. So it is important to, limiting beliefs, check-ins with other people,
and
invest in mindset.
And it empowers your teams, dude. Like it really does. Like when I say, oh my God, when we get into those check-ins, I'm like, this is looking great, team. This is looking amazing. Like keep crushing it. Like reminding the teams that they're doing well. They're nervous. You're working on big brand work. You're working on like these films that like have tight deadlines. You're working on these commercials that have tight deadlines with huge clients. They are nervous to do a good job. So you affirm the great work that they've done so far. And even when they're not necessarily like on the right path, they just kind of like missed it by a bit. You're like, oh my God, don't worry about it. Here's what I would do. Like, just like kind of calming down, like calmly kind of like delivering that information, affirming their work because it is great. It's, dude, somebody's out here hopping in like Cinema 4D or like Maya or whatever, or AE, and like spewing out these beautiful animations. Are you kidding me? Like in like a few days. Solo. You're impressive. You're impressive. They're like, I'm sorry. I'm saying it. So it's like the work and it's not just about the beauty of the work. It's about the effort and the time put in the care put in the work, because they want to impress. It's not just about impressing. They want to do a good job. They respect the craft. So I'm not going to hop on a call and just tear them down. I'm going to hop on a call and encourage them. But also I want to make sure that they're being set up. So I'm checking in on them to make sure that like by the first posting, no one is surprised at how amazing the work is. And everybody's on the same page. They're on the same page. I'm on the same page. CDs are on the same page. Art directors on the same page. Everyone's on the same page.
Get back to the idea of the show, which is getting the film notes. I feel like you've been dropping like there's so many things that I'm like, I don't know if you saw an episode, but whenever somebody says like, always do this, I'm like, I put up like film note, and I'm like, man, she's got like 100 so far already. But I did want to ask you, does anything pop into mind, either as your indie filmmaker brain or your producer brain? Like what might be a couple top notes that are things that, again, either you've learned that you found are helpful that might be helpful for others, or maybe even things you wish you had known that you go, hey, I know this thing. I wish someone had told me. I'm telling you. Well,
the biggest one is do it scared and do it imperfectly. People that keep striving for perfectionism when they haven't even done it. It's like perfection and expertise takes time. And the assumption that you're going to execute things exactly cookie cutter in full perfection off the bat borders on delusion. So to me, and so like, do it scared. Yeah, it's going to suck and you might fail at it, but you've only failed when you've given up. You have not failed if you just keep trying. Don't like and this is something that I keep saying time and time again, is you have significantly more agency than you think you do. And people sometimes absolve themselves of their agency because it helps them absolve themselves of their accountability. The responsibilities that you have as a human being, as a producer, as a filmmaker, whatever it is, are your own to delineate, but that means you have to stick to them. There needs to be some kind of like commitment, because that's where self-respect comes from. And people see that. You exude that. You become trustworthy, you become dependable. The commitment to yourself is so important. And you recognizing that you have to take responsibility for your actions, that kind of accountability, that is commitment to yourself. And people sometimes, I do think, get caught up in their own egos to recognize that they are shirking their own agency because they don't want to take accountability. And I think that is wrong. As like I said, as a leader of a team, you cannot point blame to members of your team. That is your team. You take the hit. Your job as a leader, the responsibility of a leader, is to protect their team. Now, again, I know it's traditionalist and archaic, but in my opinion, that is what a great leader does. Takes the heat, doesn't let the team feel it, course corrects calmly and not reactionarily, but remembering that you do have the agency for that. And you do have the agency to do things scared, and you do have the agency to do things imperfectly. And once we stop focusing on the end product and more on the pleasure that it is to bring narrative and storytelling to life that are important to you, that resonate with your values and your principles, that explore a side of you that you've never explored before, and you keep doing that again and again from that place of, once again, curiosity, that is what makes you an amazing storyteller. That is what makes you a great filmmaker. It's having the courage to do that imperfectly and scared.
I'm really glad you not only brought that up, but like really drove down a little deeper into it, because it's what gets in the way of a lot of people in all different methods. And a quick story that I've shared here before is, so I went to film school and worked in Australia. And which, that's another thing, is, having an international experience is so helpful to get outside of, wherever. But it's tough, because then you come home, you're like, I don't know anybody here. But there was a big short film festival every year in Sydney, and the team that won the best film, like, everyone at the film school is like, that is terrible. And the producing teacher, I'll never forget, they said, because someone's asked, well, how could they have won? Like, that film is not very good. And he goes, they won because they finished their film and they submitted it. They didn't sit here and hem and haw for like 3 semesters. Like, your film, no matter how good it is on a hard drive and no one's seen it. So if you stand in the way of it getting finished, for better or worse, no one else can ever see it or form an opinion.
Yep.
So you have to allow yourself to dare and to dream, like, well, what happens if I finish it? Well, what happens if I submit it somewhere? Like, what happens if it gets in? Like, what happens if you have to hope and dream?
Yeah, and people need to get used to that exposure. Your work will get rejected. Your work will get criticism. Deal with it. You got to develop that thick skin. You can't like, am I saying that everything that I've ever made is perfect? No, not even close. But I've made things. I now have amassed the experience to be able to make more things, and confidently, and less scared than before. And people, I think, get so stuck on this like idea of like, well, this needs to be like Oscar worthy and exceptional in every single way. And I'm like, well, you haven't even done anything. You have talked about doing something for 10 years and you've done nothing. Meanwhile, everybody else has moved on and has like literally developed this whole new skill set. So it's literally about like starting to feel comfortable in this imperfection, and that, oh my God, like, that is what makes like stories real. That is what gives them life. And you learn and you learn and you learn and you learn through the experience of creating these like things, but like people get so bogged down on these like things, but you gotta finish it. And it's that commitment to yourself. You got to be committed to yourself, not to the fear of criticism or the fear that it's not going to like live up to expectations or the fear that XYZ, whatever it is that you are either scared of or refusing to face. But you got to get that exposure, that rejection exposure, that criticism exposure. You got to develop that thick skin. You got to be okay with someone coming up to you and saying, yeah, that was shit, bro. And you being like, well, I did it though. What did you do? Which is the sassy part of me. But like, yeah, what did you do? I did it and I had so much fun doing it. I did it and I created something. I did something. Doing that proactive sense of self, that is what gives you that feeling, that feeling of completion, that feeling of fulfillment. It's not the perfection of something, because nothing will ever be perfect. Nothing will ever go according to plan. Nothing will ever look the way that you think it's going to look. Nothing is ever like, I mean, just the human condition in and of itself. We always have these severely high expectations that we essentially keep ourselves from achieving the things that we've always dreamt of achieving. Fuck the expectation. Just do it. That's what you want to do. One foot in front of the other until you get there.
I'm going to put that up as a film note. Fuck the expectation.
Fuck the expectation.
No, I know we're over time, but I wanted to ask, so you mentioned a couple films of yours that are out, and it sounds like a couple are in festivals right now, but where can people see some of your work, see more of you, connect with you, whether it's socials or website, reels, any of that?
Yeah, well, you can check out my website at www.saelhassani.com. And then my Instagram is SAELHASSANI. You could hit me up there. I'm always open to collaborate. Send me your scripts. I love that. I love it when people send me scripts. I love watching film. So film recos, hit me with them. I love everything under the sun. It's actually kind of annoying. Yeah, I always down to, or just, hit me up to say hi. But you could check out all of my work on my website, and my Instagram has my work as well.
And I'd like to remind people, if they're just listening to this, I know a lot of podcasts now, I mean, some of them, they're video as well, but I think, at least when I think of podcasts, it's audio. But this is a YouTube show because we're talking about film. So I always want people to watch it. Not only can you see the guests, but like you just talked about the website, the Instagram, like that'll be on the screen. Like it'll have the link. Like you can see, the posters to the person's film. Sometimes someone sends me a trailer or like a scene or BTS photos, and I put that up. It's great that you can listen to this in the car while you're out for a run, but like I always encourage people, that way they can see the person's work. They can see the person that, then when they go to the Instagram, like, oh, this is the same face as the person in the interview or what have you. So, so glad you were here. Thank you so much for talking about that. This is a great talk. And I really loved not only what you said, but like the way you said it. I'm originally from upstate New York, but I had friends that went to NYU when I was down in the city a lot with them when we were all getting started. And I miss all the, the sass, like you mentioned. It's really great. Thank you so much for being here. It's wonderful.
Thank you so much, Shane. I really appreciate this.
And as I mentioned for everyone at the beginning, this is Film Notes. So please like, share, subscribe, all the things. We have a new episode every month, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to support the show, please click on the link below. You can also contact me at my website if you have any questions about filmmaking or anything else. Off to the side, you'll see a couple of my books, Film Notes and the Film Notes Workbook. I encourage you to check those out if you'd like to learn more about filmmaking. See you in the next episode.
Scene 1, Apple, take 1.